Yes. Oh,
There
I
you go.
can figure out my buttons. Welcome to the Greensboro WordPress meetup. We are a loose group of friends that enjoy talking and learning things about WordPress. And we bring in speakers or presenters when there's just something really dynamite that they've got. And we've got that tonight. So Jeff has a two-part program that he's going to go through that will talk about a new tool he found that is better than any AI content generator I've seen. And I've played with them all, many of them. And then he's going to show you another very cool tool about how to evaluate your web performance. And it's built for both new people who aren't all that geeky, and I use geek as a compliment. And it's also built for people who know a little bit more. So this was just like two things that Jeff talked about. And I was like, okay, come and tell our folks. So, Jeff is a senior product manager at MongoDB with 9 years of experience in, here's where we go into the acronyms, B2B SaaS products, and more than 22 years of experience in tech. He's successfully launched 0 to 1 products, and he'll talk about 0 to 1 products such as API Gateway and EdgeKV. He's got an MBA from University of Dayton, along with CISSP and AWS Cloud Practitioner certifications. Anybody who can figure out AWS has my respect. So Jeff has all kinds of background in product strategy, roadmap development, API design, and a whole lot of experience with WordPress since 4X. Now, there's something else about Jeff that just happened last week that is even more impressive. And if you know about Cadences Amplify is they don't take everybody who wants to speak, but they took Jeff, and he's being inducted by trial by fire, doing Amplify, where nobody cuts you any slack, and it's a 24-hour Cadence WordPress thing. And if you go to cadencewp.com, you can read more about Amplify. I'm going to do one community service suggestion before Jeff starts. There have been a lot of hacks recently of major places. If you've ever been to a doctor, your stuff's been hacked. If you have a social security number, your stuff's been hacked. You should go to the 3 major credit bureaus and put fraud alerts on your credit report, or you should freeze your credit. If you're not buying a house or a car anytime soon, you're not going to finance something, freeze your credit. The other thing you should do, and this is because we're the Greensboro meetup, the Guilford County Registrar of Deeds, Jeff Thigpen, and I were talking. You can go to the Registrar of Deeds site, go to their free fraud alert, and put a fraud alert on your deed for your house. I'm going to put the link for that into the chat. And if you've got a mom who's older, a dad who's somebody who maybe could get hurt, you can do this for them. The one in Guilford County just asked for my name. And because my name is Susan legally, I put in Sue, and then said, do you want to do another name? I sure did. And I put in Susan, and then I put in Susan L. And anyway, be safe. Don't lose your house. And that's all I got to say about that. Take care of your credit. Okay, Jeff, you're on.
Awesome. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Yes, you can see where I work behind me. For those who don't know, MongoDB is a document database. Most databases are tables, much akin to an Excel spreadsheet. MongoDB stores data as a JSON document, which is to say it's really good for unstructured data. Great introduction. Thank you very much. There's a lot of acronyms in there. We won't have to unpack them all. Suffice it to say that I have a long-standing background in technology. I'm certified on AWS. The CISSP means I have a security certification as well. And I spent about 11 years at a company called Akamai Technologies, which is a big CDN. content delivery network. So if you're familiar with Cloudflare, we were Cloudflare before they were even known. So that being said, a few things to show you tonight. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. Just to kind of let me make sure I can do this. I'm going to share one window at a time so you guys don't have to see, my entire desktop. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. Can someone just shout out I can see it?
You're good.
Okay. So how long I've been doing WordPress? I actually figured this out last night. So I had a WordPress blog back in the day, still had the backup, loaded it into local last night and found my original blog. You can see the date here is like the last post was 2013. So, and then I looked up and I said, well, what version of WordPress was out then? So if I go into the database for this thing running locally, you go into a user, you can always see that the date the user was registered. So back in 2008, I started using WordPress. This is back in the 4.7 days, so to give you some sense of it. And that's suffice to say, I've got a fair bit of experience with it. But I thought that would be a laugh. So we're going to cover two different things tonight. We're going to cover some web performance topics as well as AI content generation. And the AI stuff is important to understand because today Google actually accepts AI content as much as it does handwritten content, if you will, or original content. So when you actually are considering using an AI tool, my recommendation is let the AI tool guide your writing or even write things for you. But as a human being, your role is editor and moderator. And it doesn't mean you can just kick out documents without doing anything. You actually have to make sure it works. And if you've ever seen content from different AI tools, they actually look a little different based on which tool you're using. Sometimes AI content can sound really mechanical and stilted, so you kind of want to be able to you always want to have to go back through what AI creates, but the benefit of it is that you can really kickstart writing. And there are two tools to do that probably, if you haven't heard of ChatGPT, you've probably been living under a rock for some time. Obviously, that's one you can use. You can see I've got that here. The one I would recommend to you as content creators is not ChatGPT. There is another one called Claude, just run by a company called Anthropic, who's been around also just as long. And you can see here, I've done some different things here, but the language you get back from Claude is much, much more usable than what you get from ChatGPT. And for the whopping sum of about $9 a month, you can get Koala Chat. There are a handful of content creators, AI content creators. Koala is certainly one of them, and not the only one. But you'll have a chance to actually look at some other ones, and I'm going to show you like how this is actually done. So I'm in Koala Writer, and there's a bunch of different items here where I can run a chat. I can run different things that hear about images. And I think one of the things that I want to call out here that's super important is there's a reason why it's called Chat GPT and not Search GPT. The word chat is what you should key on. To get output from an AI language model, you need to have a conversation with it. And there's a whole art of doing this, which we won't get into tonight, but I want to make you aware of it. You may have heard it called prompt engineering. It's about how you construct queries to Chat GPT or to Claude to be able to make sure that you get the output that you want. And there are ways that you can learn the best way to do this is to actually learn by doing. But it's iterative, meaning that you start with a prompt, you give Claude some parameters of what you want back, and then you refine it. What like the shampoo bottle says, wash, rinse, repeat. And what Koala Writer is doing here is kind of slapping a interface on top of some of the more major language models. And you can see here that the model that I can choose is ChatGPT 4.0 Mini, 4.0, and Claude. So I have an opportunity to do each of these. Notice how it tells you that one uses more words. That's how these models are built, essentially on a usage-based model. And you have a certain amount of, if you will, tokens that you can use up every month, or buy more if you need them. And then there's certain customizations. That's these presets you see here at the top. But we're going to run through the creation of a blog post. And to do this and make it relevant, I want you guys to think about a blog post. We'll come to it here in a moment. I'd love to have someone, give us an idea, or I'll choose one if no one does. But what you'll see happening here is that we're going to create a post, and I have linked Koala Writer back to my WordPress installation, right? So I've got my own personal site for my business, and then you'll see I've got a bunch of posts in here. But when we use Koala, the output of what we're going to generate actually automatically gets pulled into WordPress as a new post. So it is as painless as it could be. No copy pasting, no moving things. It is all there. Let me pause there. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's go through how to create a document in a blog post in Koala Writer. So I'm going to flip over here and say use Claude Sonnet. Now, Sonnet is just one of the language models. If I go back to Claude, I can choose these different language models, right? There's different models that are better at different things. And the one that is integrated here is Sonnet. Don't ask me why they named this after Shakespearean stuff. I do not know. And then there are some older models, but you should just use the ones that are more modern, that are newer. And here I'm going to say I can choose what I want. Do I want a listicle, an Amazon product roundup page, a product review, a YouTube video to blog posts? Do I want to rewrite an existing blog post? I'm going to just say blog post, keep it simple. And then what you put in here are target keywords. So we're going to do something like, I'm actually going to, I was going to crowdsource this, but we'll make this easy. So WordPress speed, let's do this. Let me see, WordPress website optimization.
How about something that doesn't use optimization? Like, how can I make my WordPress blog load faster?
We can do that. We'll use these keywords. Okay, now what I have here is SEO optimization, and you can see that the default is that they will be naturally optimized, but there's no SERP, right? No SERP analysis to ensure that we're actually getting the relevant topics. The one thing, if I could say, that's a downside to Koala Writer is that they kind of nickel and dime you on some of this stuff, right? So if I want to do AI powered, I can do that. If I want to put in my own keywords, I can do that. AI powered, I can do that, but I don't have the professional plan, so we are going to be stuck with default. Obviously, the professional plan, costs a little bit more per month, and I just bought this to experiment with it. Automatic internal linking, it's exactly what it sounds like. Add your domain, and we're going to automatically index your site and add the relevant internal links. So we're going to go ahead, and I believe I can select this. I can't do that today, but that's fine. We can do it without. Oh, it's in the professional plan. That's why. Can't do that. But you can see what's possible.
Jeff, SERP, search engine, would you explain what SERP means?
Yes. And I am not the SEO guru here, but to show you how how Claude works, we're going to do this. And you're going to get back a chat. And this is search engine results page. It's the pages that Google sends back to you that are numbered, right? When you type a keyword in, you're going to see all of these things in it. So SERPs are crucial for digital marketing and search engine optimization. So the higher up you are in the search results, obviously the better things are. Notice while I'm doing this, what's the last thing that's being said here? Would you like me to elaborate any specific aspect of SERPs? This is where, as I mentioned a moment ago, you have a dialogue. Tell me more about knowledge panels and how I should use them. Boom. And then it comes back, right? What's the benefit of using these type of tools? I don't have to go pick through a page and a half of SERPs of Google results to find what I'm looking for and get the information, right? So if I scroll back up, it tells me what a knowledge panel is, what the basic parts of it is, how to use them. And would you like me to add more information? Like, you are having a dialogue. I think of this as a brain in a jar, right? You are having a dialogue, and you can get as you know, really as detailed as you want. I actually just use this, use Claude to create LLC operating agreements for my business, and because I didn't have one. And when I went to create it, I asked Claude, "Hey, ask me questions as we go to fill out this form." And then what spits out at the end is a document that I can turn around and use. So I'm getting a little off topic here, but we could probably spend another event on another meeting on just AI. Okay.
Sold.
So another cool thing, I can have it create images or videos for me. And if I say auto, I'm going to let it decide, which I don't like, right? But I can do that. I can, audio, videos, and images, don't care about that. And then I can say, what image kind of type do I want? Do I want a photo, an illustration, a watercolor, a fantasy style art, anime, a 3D rendering, or an isometric? I can tell it what image sizes. And what it's going to do here is populate the blog post with images that it thinks is relevant to the post. And we're not going to say 15 images. I don't even know why it defaults to that. We're going to say 2. Now I give it a length. And I say, what do I really want? And most of my blog posts, I choose medium. I try to get around 2,000 words. So we're going to tell it to do about 2,000 words, maybe a little bit less. And then the next thing is you're going to tell what tone of voice that you want it to be. Look at the choices. You can have, straight-laced, buttoned-up, professional, casual, humorous, or SEO optimized. SEO optimized means that it's going to come across sounding confident, knowledgeable, neutral, and clear, which is what Google likes to see in blog posts, right? But you have the ability to customize that. I can have it create in a different language if I wanted to do that. And then in country, I can basically tell it, like, what country do I want to rank for? I'm going to say US. And then I can say, point of view. How should this article be written? From what point of view? First person, second person, third person, and so forth, right? And that is how you can customize it. And then down here, there's a few extras. Real-time data. I can have it search, excuse me, have it fetch data from the search results and use that to inform the article. I'm going to say yes to the outline editor, which gives me, and you'll see this in a moment, I'm going to look at an outline so I can reorder it or add new sections before it actually gets generated. I can include a frequently asked questions if I want. I can include a key takeaways section, which is always good, kind of a call to action for some of you. And then I can change the readability, right? Do I want to make this at a different level of readability? By default, it's going to target an 8th grade reading level, which is generally considered to be the right reading level for something on the web. Okay. And then I'm going to say there's advanced options here. You can do a lot of these things, like give it more prompts, like for the title, for the sections, and for the introduction, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say create outline. Notice here my current usage for the month. I haven't used this month. It's only September 11th, but I've got 15,000 words. That is how this thing actually charges you. You get a certain amount of words per month based on the plan you buy. We're going to say create outline. Cool. Sorry, I missed the chat, guys. We can do another one with some of them. But okay, I now have an outline for a blog post. Notice it has broken it up into different sections. So I've got my intro, I've got an H2 with subsequent H3s. And then if I scroll down, this is what it generated, right? So if I can eyeball this and I can go into one of these sections and I have a bunch of different options here. I can change that section by going over here and giving it more prompts or keywords or URLs or more background information to help the AI generate this thing with more information. Generally speaking, the more information you pass to an AI, the better off it is. And that is meaning that you almost look at an AI like an intern, but an intern that is freaking whip smart, right? But they don't know what they don't know. So your job, and when you're building things with AIs, is to make that AI smarter. Tell it what you want, essentially. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting over a COVID from like 2 weeks ago. So here I can essentially look at what it built. So I've got an introduction section. I've got an essentials of WordPress performance, and it's exactly what it sounds like, right? What are the important pieces of WordPress performance? Notice it picked hosting impact, the theme, how efficient the code of that theme is, the role of plugins. We all know plugins can bloat a site. Then it picks on caching as another performance element, and it breaks that into caching plugins for WordPress and browser caching techniques. Content delivery and optimization. This is the CDN thing I was talking about. And it breaks it into, different things you can do. And then database, how do I clean up the database? And then how do I monitor and perform it, right? And I can essentially add sections to this or delete sections. Let's say, you know what, I really want to skip image optimization. I just exit out. It's not going to actually create that. So again, I have the purpose of the outline is I can move things around. I can say like, okay, bring this down here. We're going to start with cache. I want, CDN first, that kind of thing. So you get a little bit of a coarse-grained way to change the outline. And you'll get a chance to change the document too. Don't get me wrong, this is not a one-way door. Sorry, that's how I talk about things. There are two-way doors in life and one-way doors in life. One-way doors, meaning you go through it, you cannot go back. Two-way doors, you can go back where you came from. And again, I can even now that I made those changes, it has tracked them and it says undo if I wanted to, but we're going to go ahead and say write article. So it'll sit here and spin for a little bit, so go get a cup of coffee, but here we go. You can see that it is working on generating an image. As I scroll down, here is my blog post with an introduction, the key takeaways. If you have an SEO mind, this should ring pretty true to you. The essentials of WordPress performance, and it also should look just like the outline we saw. And here is each of my little sections, right? And this could be a lot more than it is. Please don't think that this is, all it can be. I could make this much longer, but I'm trying to stay under like 1,600 words. And notice I got a couple of original images here. Now, they may not actually have a ton of relevance to what we're doing, but they're generic enough, right? I usually don't use these images, but I wanted to show you that the capability is there. So now I go in here, and now here's the caching for enhanced speed, a section on plugins and browser caching. Notice the image optimization section that I deleted is no longer there. Keep going down. Here's the database. Here's monitoring and testing, which was the final section, right? And I can now refine this if I wanted to. I can see details about it, right? Like, here's the word count. Kind of low. I was hoping to get closer to 2,000, right? And then these are basically reiterating the choices I had made earlier. And then it gives me the outline down here, right? And I can do other things here, like I could download it, copy it. If I wanted to polish it, there's different things I can do here, right? Simplifying complex sentences, that kind of thing. I'm in the interest of time, simply going to have this thing create the actual post. And notice the WordPress icon right here, right? I am essentially going to say create draft.
Jeff, before you create, okay, you can create the draft.
Uh,
We have a question in the chat.
oh yeah,
If you use those AI images, do you have to upload them separately into the media library to get?
yes, I believe you do. I actually realized I had turned something off and the API is not working. So I'm getting an error, right? The REST API has been restricted to authenticated users. I can fix that really quick.
Well, the REST API being restricted is a very good idea. It's kind of
Yes,
like putting a freeze on your credit. If you go to buy a car and you have to unfreeze it, then unfreeze it. Same thing with the REST API.
it
Keep it
is. And
restricted.
I'm trying to remember if I did this in WordFence or somewhere else. I'm pretty sure I did it in WordFence.
That makes
But
sense.
give me a moment. Sorry, I should have run through this once before. Hang on, WordPress. All
But
options.
while you're doing this, I don't know if you can talk at the same time, but basically you do have to upload them individually, or this tool will upload them if you give them access to the REST API.
Yes, it'll do it if you have access to the REST API.
But
And
if not, then you're going to have to, if you're just going to copy and paste this into WordPress, then you have to upload the images yourself.
yes,
Okay.
but I can tell you that like as a workflow item, and just because we're on the subject, whenever I would even take the images myself manually, like I actually use this tool right here, cloudconvert.com, and I convert any JPEG to a WebP and then pull it into to the library, right? Because I can select a file and then it'll go through here and it'll spit out a WebP that I can use. So in the interest of time, I'm going to ask Claude, how do I enable the REST API in WordPress? I don't remember exactly which plugin does this. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of trial and error here to actually get this done. Um, and sorry guys, I really wish I had taken a moment here because I don't remember where I turned it off.
We
So
could skip that part
okay.
unless it won't do what you want.
It
And while Jeff is figuring that out, I'm going to put um, a link to just a plugin we've talked about on this meetup before. It's got a strange name, EWWW. It does image optimizing if you want to run a plugin to do it independently, and it will turn your images into WebPs every time you upload one. But that's another way to do this. This is Jeff, of course, is doing it the very geeky way.
I'm doing it in a very manual way.
And the question is, why would you not upload a JPEG for backwards compatibility?
Most modern browsers can do it. There's very few that can't read WebP. Notice I just found the place to disable the REST API. So let me try sending it over again. Let's flip back over to Koala Writer and see if we can now do it. There you go. Creating draft. Look what it did. Not only did it take me away from Koala Writer, it actually brought me right into my site, right into the interface. And
And
you can
you're
see,
already, you do this when you're already logged into your site, right? It has
I
to
don't,
be,
well, it does it automatically because I don't, it's kind of an unprotected, the
okay.
API WordPress is kind of open to anyone, but like, look what's here. It is formatted. Everything is there. And the next thing I would do here is I would go through this document from top to bottom and I would start rewriting to be able to um, put the human spin on it because while Google, like I said, is happy to accept AI, and this is written probably very well, you're going to want the human touch. It can't be understated, right? How that works. And then I believe if I flip back over here, I'm gonna go back to my site, go to posts. There it is. See it?
Jeff, we have a question in the chat.
Go ahead.
Can you talk about how Koala, this draft, handles external links? Rosalind says it's super important if you're in a competitive industry as she is.
And when we say external links, the outbound links that are in your document that link to other documents that are nested inside your document. I don't think Koala necessarily does that. So I think that's more of you're going to need oversight as the human being to be able to go through and sort those links. There may be a way with some of the more expensive versions of Koala to do that, but I'm just simply not aware of.
Rosalind, could you unmute yourself and ask, tell us, is that the answer to what you wanted? Or
Sure. That is great. Thank you so much. I am asking because on that first landing page that you showed for Koala, it said that it did in external and internal links. And that is like a deal maker. I am a very experienced SEO writer who writes in a brutally competitive industry. So on that landing page, it said it does external and internal links, and only that makes the difference. At this point in the industry, that is the deal maker. And so I want to know about it.
Rosalind, tell us why internal and external, what's so special about external links for SEO?
Well, the external in particular, when you refer to, let's say you're doing a 1,500 to 2,000 word piece, and you link to 7 to 10, or even more if you're feeling especially time free that day, very authoritative external links, that is what gets your content ranked. When you are in a truly hyper competitive industry like telecom, as I am, and so unless you can do those really authoritative links to the FCC, to PC Mag or Forbes Mag, to the sources that are going to lift you above bland AI content. So that's what I'm really interested in. I totally get it. If you haven't worked with that, I'll go look at it myself, but I really appreciate it.
Cool to know. Very cool to know.
I haven't.
Okay,
but yeah,
Jeff.
I get your point. Yeah, go ahead.
But you're next. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, so I guess the thing I want to show you here is like, and again, I'm going to keep pounding on this particular dead horse. This is nothing more than an accelerator. It augments what you can do, right? I kind of discovered this before I discovered Claude directly, and I tend to favor just using Claude to create posts. But I want to show you guys like this. People are always saying like, oh, AI is going to take jobs and job cuts are happening because of AI. I'll say it to you this way. AI is not going to take your job. Someone using AI is going to take your job. Let me say that again. Someone using AI is going to take your job. Because if you're fluid with how you use AI and you're fluent in it, you're going to magnify the amount and quality of work you can deliver as an individual. And the more you can learn about it, the more of an edge it actually gives you. I'll give you another example of something you can do with Claude. So Sue doesn't know this, but I actually wrote a book. Real estate investing is a kind of another hobby of mine, and I have if I flip over to Amazon, hang on, let me go to my list. I actually have a book that I wrote about property managers right here. Not trying to pimp myself, but I'm trying to show you that for a reason. I actually created a project in Claude, uploaded the book so that Claude now knows everything about the book, and I can write and ask questions to Claude, and Claude now has context, the context of my book. And I can even add custom instructions of what I want him to do. Okay. So just wanted to show you guys this, right? Like, take it for what it is. It is certainly an accelerator. It is not a substitute for people, but I think it's something worth spending some time learning.
I hadn't, until I saw Jeff talk about this one, I wasn't familiar with a tool that did all of this, and then you can choose your AI engine. And that it just seemed like something that the people in this meetup should know about and maybe can use. Does anybody have a comment about this? Because I get the feeling Jeff is going to be moving to a second topic in a minute.
Correct.
Anybody want to talk? Just unmute yourself and feel free. Or not. Okay, Jeff.
All right. As we say in my job, silence is consensus. So we'll assume everybody's good with what we presented. All right. We're going to pivot, to a different topic. And I want to preface this by saying, like, we decided to discuss two different things tonight. The second one is something that's also near and dear to my heart, which is web performance. So with WordPress, we have this stupid, easy ecosystem of plugins that we can use to make our WordPress site do and sing and dance in ways that would otherwise require a programmer. We can buy these incredible themes and we can create this really rich content. The problem is when you actually do that and you start decorating your site, as I call it, it gets slower. And it's great that you create all these articles, but if your site has a payload, meaning the amount of data delivered from the server to the browser gets too big, doesn't matter how great your content is, no one's sticking around long enough to read it. So there is a whole industry and practice around web performance. And that's kind of some of the consulting that I do on the side, because that's what CDNs like Akamai, where I worked, are all about. So I'm gonna kind of show you a way that you can do this with tools that are actually built into Chrome that perhaps you may not know about. So I'm gonna go back over here to my homepage, and notice I'm not in the WordPress interface here. I'm just in the site. And this is my site. Yeah, this is what it is. Here's my blog post. If I wanted to see how this site performs, and I'm using Chrome, as many people are, I go over here, click on the three dots, and I go down to more tools, and I click on developer tools. And usually it defaults to something like this, which looks, pretty familiar to anyone who's, used to HTML or anything like that, right? But what you don't realize is that there's a whole bunch of cool things that this browser can do. And we're going to go over here to Lighthouse. And you can follow along at home if you've got a browser, right? The first thing you want to do here is I can tell Chrome what I want to emulate when it's doing what I'm about to show you. I can just say, make it a responsive website. I can choose like, oh, I want this to mimic an iPad Air, that kind of thing. I can even throttle what it's going to do here and say, mimic like a low-end mobile phone, and see what that actually does. So we're going to pick on mobile here. And you're probably wondering why I'm starting with mobile and not a desktop. It's because desktops are ridiculously powerful, right? And when you're designing, oftentimes the people that are going to be reading your site often are using their phones. So if you do page performance optimization and you start with mobile, desktop is automatically going to come along for the ride, right? Because you're optimizing for weaker devices with slower networks. And if your site can perform on a slower network to a certain degree, it is automatically going to be better on desktop. So if you were wondering while we're looking at this is why we're doing it. So over here on Lighthouse, I'm gonna ask it to analyze page load of my page. I'm gonna say mobile, right? And I'm just gonna keep these defaults, navigation default mode, and I can select different categories. I don't really care about accessibility, but it's gonna show me best practices in SEO. And now I'm gonna click page load, and it's gonna load the page. And it'll take a minute to parse through it and then come up with information that'll show up here in the right-hand pane and compute scores. So you're going to see it blink. You're going to see some stuff here. Okay. Another good thing, which I'm not doing, is running this in incognito mode, because Chrome plugins can affect your performance. So shame on me. But one of the things that you're going to notice here is I've got a score, right? And if I hover over it, I get to see the things that make up the score. Here's a bunch of scary acronyms, but they are easily decodable to figure out what they actually are. And down here, I see a snapshot of my site, which is akin to what I'm seeing here. The first contentful paint is, and you can look up all these terms, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time breaking all of these down for you, but what you want to be able to do here is minimize anything that is red, right? Things are green, we're good, we're golden, but anything that's red is problematic. And you have to spend some time. So I might have a 5-year-old toddler running in here, so just fair warning to everyone. But one of the and I guess I kind of glossed over this. You have a performance tool sitting in your browser. Use it, right? Like there's reasons to do it and reasons to use it. Here is a little film strip of what it looks like to load the page. And then down here is where you want to pay attention, right? It's telling you what's wrong performance-wise with your website. And notice that it breaks it into reds, oranges, and what would ordinarily be greens. We call this traffic light protocol. And down here, if I scroll down, it's telling me about it's scoring best practices. And down here, like again, I didn't put too much in here about accessibility, but I certainly could have. Just trying to minimize what we're looking at. And then it did some rudimentary SEO, and then it tells you that okay, I was actually loading your page with slow 4G throttling, emulating a Motorola G with Lighthouse. And again, I can change all that if I wanted to, right? Like I can change, what I want it to look at or what I want it to mimic, that kind of thing. Let's go back up here though. So here is what you want to focus on, right? And this is telling me, right? Resources are blocking the first paint, which is when it's actually painting stuff on the screen. And it actually tells me which resources are actually causing this, right? If I hover over it, I can see that, oh, you know why? I know why this is doing it. Actually, hang on, we're going to do this again. It's actually, because I was over here, it was taking the WordPress dashboard into account. So we are going to rerun this. Hold on a second. And
You have to log out, right?
I did, and I'm pretty sure I'm logged out here, but let's make sure. Like the thing you don't want is essentially to be doing this while logged in, because it's going to look at the WordPress console as a performance drag. And that is exactly what you don't want to do. So we're going to run a new report. We're going to analyze page load. And we'll give it a second to do this. I know we're, almost at time, but hopefully we'll have time to come through this stuff. And now it's even worse, which is great. So I've got some things to work on here, clearly, right? And let's go back down. And it's telling me a bit of a different thing. Reduce my JavaScript execution time. And here we go. Chrome extension. Let's do this the right way.
So, Jeff, this is on the highly geeky level. For people who might not are you going to look at the bugbear?
We are.
Okay.
I wanted to show
Because
this
we're getting
first.
close on time.
Yeah. I'm gonna share Debug Bear in a minute, and because that's
Okay.
it's a way that that you can do this a little bit more cleanly. And I'm gonna just share this real quick. But I guess what I wanted to show here is we're gonna do this one more time. Costa.com. Okay, cool. And we're in incognito mode. So here, what it was doing there was I have plugins to Chrome, and what it was doing was essentially the plugins were impacting my page speed, and it was distorting it. So here I'm going to go in an incognito mode, and it should work without plugins, and I should get a bit of a better score. There we go. But essentially, it's the same thing. It tells me like, okay, now that the plugins are out of the way, what's causing my problem? Well, the very first thing is I have an element here, which is called the largest contentful paint element at 5 seconds on a slow mobile connection.
Ooh.
That is really causing delays, right? And that's this, right? It's a header that I'm using in Cadence. So we're not going to get into how to fix this stuff necessarily, but we're going to go into a different tool that uses kind of the same stuff underneath it to actually give you a little bit more information. This is called debugbear.com, and you can essentially run these website speed tests. So if I go here, it automatically, kind of picks up because I've done this before. We're going to say start test. And essentially we're doing largely the same thing, but the server is doing it against another server doing against my watch. See, it's a mobile device with this much bandwidth, with this much latency, and some CPU throttling. And I can change that, but it's trying to mimic like a real world situation that someone might find themselves in. And notice again, we're not testing desktop, we're testing mobile, because if you fix mobile, you automatically fix desktop. And the benefit of this tool is that it gives you more actionable things, I think, in a little bit less of a geeky way. And we're going to say, no thanks, take me to the result. So here is, again, kind of the same thing, but you can see that a bit of a different result. I'm not testing this from my browser. I've actually spent quite a bit of time optimizing this site. So you see I got a great lab score here. And these are kind of the dashboard of things that you want to do. I mentioned payload size a moment ago. I did a lot of strict work to make this page lightweight, which means it still looks pretty. It still has images, WebP, wink, wink, but it's not sending 11 megs over the wire, right? You should look at a page weight of like 1 to 2 megs max. And then here's a really nice rendering film strip, and you can see how long it takes the page to render. This is done in 0.1 milliseconds, right? Excuse me. So when a user actually hits your site, this is what they see. So for me, the time to first byte is how quickly the server returns the first part of the HTML document, and this is super fast. I've optimized this. Less than a third of a second. And then the first contentful paint is how quickly content appears on the page, right? And you can see that is happening at 1.1 seconds roughly, which is fast. And then down here, it's going to give you the film strip of what your page looks like when it loads. And it's going to tell you what's called the largest contentful paint image, which is the largest single page element on a page that is rendered, right? It's a big thing to look at. But then down here, you've got some more information, right? And we're going to say show more. And again, notice the recommendations here. I have done a lot of work to make these green, right? But again, you can see what the recommendations are. And it says serving images that are too large leads to slow request and wasted bandwidth. And I know exactly what this is. Is
that the background? Is that the background image in your header?
It's one of them. Yeah, you can actually see it down here, and it'll show you what that image actually is. This is
Jeff is going through this. If you want your website for him to look at it, please put the link in the chat.
Yes. Sorry, in the chat, like all these tools are impacted by network congestion, right? So if you run the tool twice in a row, you might get a different, you're probably going to get a different result. Shouldn't be too big, but you're going to get it. So I know what the problem here is. This image is huge, and I'm using, and Cadence is actually scaling it down for a size. So what it's telling me is I am sending too big of an image over the wire, and I could save quite a bit by properly sizing this image, right? And then it's going to show me what the other images are, and I can click on one of these and I can see which image, what it's doing, and it's telling me serving the image in the proper size could save 20K, right? And that's something I can go customize, right? Like I can create the proper sized image from this, and I can save all of this cumulative time. And then, excuse me, lazy load off-screen images. So there's some images that I can do what's called lazy loading. And what lazy loading is when you browse a website, we'll go back here to like mine. When you browse a website, notice it'll load the images that are in the viewport here, but it'll lazy load what's down here. And I have that actually turned off. So I could actually re-enable that and turn it back on and boost my score, but I was experimenting with it. But this is a tool that you can use to easily get some actionable data about what your website performance looks like. All right, who's got a website that they want me to use? Pop it in the chat. We'll check it out because we've got 6 minutes left.
I know this one's going to be good.
Right.
I think
anybody know one that might be bad? Let's go the other direction though, Sue. Anybody got one?
Who's got a bad one?
Who's got a bad one? Don't be shy. If not, we'll just pick
God, all right. I'm game. Let's go to mine.
And is that the TEDx one, or is that a different one?
No, the Get Me Online is one I'm replacing. It's an older site. It's going to load very slowly.
Okay, let's start the test. And Nancy, we'll try to get to yours too. I'll spin it up in the background.
Yeah, it's not moving at all. Oh God. I'm gonna
do this the easy way. Just go back to it that way. Say run another test. But this is if you think this stuff isn't important, you're mistaken, because it absolutely is important. And essentially, this is the stuff that makes someone come back to your site. If your site is ridiculously heavy and you're not optimizing images and you're not looking at these page load things, your competitors are. And here we go. Here's Sue's page.
It's all red.
Page. So you got some red, right? You've got an 82%, and it kind of breaks down like where the problems are. Your page weight's good though. You got like under 2 megs, good stuff. And then it's kind of showing you, but what it's showing you here is like how that page loads, right?
How many seconds? I can't see it. How many seconds till the first content full page?
You get almost 2 seconds.
There you go. That's why we're replacing the site.
2 seconds, right? And again, remember what mine was. It was like what? 1?
Yeah.
And then down here, we can see what Sue has. And she's got some different types of changes, right? It's telling us to lazy load images, use modern image formats instead of, instead of this PNG, make it a WebP. Ensure that the largest contentful paint image isn't too big. And Sue, that hero image of you is what's driving that. And then it basically says, stop doing these, ridiculous images. There's one there. And then I'm gonna flip over here just to Hawthorne World. Look at this one. Like, this is a great one. Look at the page weight here. Think about this. Think how much 6 megs doesn't sound like a lot, right? It's huge, because for every time someone hits this page, your server has to send 6 megs of data.
It's a video background, Nancy says.
And that's a good reason why, right? But there's ways to optimize video too. And you can see that video is also causing the browser to chew up some CPU as it parses it out. And then this is interesting too. Look at this one. Page content was hidden using CSS until 2.7 seconds, which is to say there's a CSS here that is controlling the page build, right? But blocking it until almost 3 seconds of time elapses. Now you're running on a powerful server here because I can see you've got a low time to first byte and you've got a good first contentful paint. And the largest one is 4.8 seconds, but this is what you want to pay attention to. Time to interactive, right?
Yeah.
It's when the page becomes ready to use, and it's 9 seconds. The average
Nancy,
person,
is this a business site, a family site, a personal site? I can't, my window's too small.
No, that's business.
Oh, lots of things for
Don't
you to
let
do.
Divi.
Yep. And then the whole page this is the milestone called visually complete. When everything is rendered, nothing changes, is almost 18 seconds. Now again, like
Yeah.
putting this in perspective. Sorry, Sue, I know you're about to say something. I'll just complete this thought. You should be targeting 1 to 3 seconds to 4 seconds, maybe at the top, right? Because no one, I actually saw a site that had 11 meg. No one is going to wait that long. People have short attention. They will surf away while your page is still trying to load. And again, if you go down here, it'll probably say some things about, okay, so you have, notice again, like what we're talking about here, the tool is detecting is slightly different for each of these sites, right? Some of them are the same, but the LCP image is not coming in fast. We're hiding page content until it's ready. Not sure why that's happening. And we're doing a re-render, right, of an image. So that might be due to the slider bar and that kind of thing. So I know we have a minute left. Hopefully this was insightful and useful. But this is an art and a science, right? Like this stuff might look impenetrable, and it probably is to some degree because there's all these acronyms scattered around this page, but you don't need to pay attention to them all. The things you care about are speed index, page weight, time to first byte, and really like, first contentful paint, right? So Sue, your page wasn't actually all that bad, right? If you go back over here, right, you got a great speed index, but every page should be run through these tools, at least your homepage, to see what it scores like. And then you can follow some of the directives to make it better. All right,
Okay.
I'll shut up.
I've got 2 things. Jeff, would you put into the chat how people can get in touch with you if they want to follow up, ask you questions or whatever?
Sure.
And before we get to questions, next month's meeting, October 9th, is Eric still here? Eric's here. Eric will be leading this because I asked him, I said, I'm just getting like blown away with WooCommerce and everything you can do with it. And it's just crazy. And there's 9 million plugins. And I said, could you talk to people about how to set up your WooCommerce site the first time? What options do you have to pick? What don't you want to pick? Where are the pitfalls? What are you going to forget? What do you need to know before you even start? So Eric will be here on October 9th, second Wednesday of the month at 6:00. And Eric, do you want to say hi or put a link into the chat about how to reach you before then?
Yeah, I will. I'll drop my contact info here in just a sec.
Because I've gotten a couple of WordPress sites and the WooCommerce sites. First thing I do is call Eric. Here, you do this. So Jeff, this has been fascinating. We have. Oh, Eagle, I don't know why saving the chat is turned off. I would probably have to, if you could tell me how to undo it, I will, or I'll send you a copy of it if you want that.
Sue, it is on. If you go to the 3 dots and you can go to save chat, I just did it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Then lazy load is a bit of an issue, and a lot of the better theme developers are building lazy load in, and you almost have to turn it off. it seemed to be a good idea, but it's not when you're doing stuff like what Jeff just did. In terms of the video for this, Chris gets them online about 3 days or 4 days after I send it to him. And when he puts the video online, you'll get a message as an attendee or a member of the Greensboro WordPress group, and you can see the video and go over it again, which I will do to figure out a little bit more about Koala. And does anybody, this is like your time, if you can stay, and Jeff, if you've got I know you've got little kids, but does anybody have a question? This is the time to unmute and ask it. Even if you just want to say it was good. Eric's contact is in the chat for next month. We're always looking ahead a month. Wait till you see what's coming in November.
Awesome. Well, I
Well,
appreciate it. Hopefully this was valuable to everybody.
I absolutely don't see the save the chat. I don't have the 3 dots.
Gene said it was in the 3
Should be at the top.
dots.
There should be a 3-dot button next to the X.
And the very first thing said
Right,
Yeah, I
right next
know.
to the Greensboro
Save chat.
WordPress meetup.
It ain't there.
Really?
Eagle, that's weird. Do you want it saved, or are you just checking?
No, it's all right. That's fine. I just wondered why it was off. But
Okay.
that's bizarre.
Was this helpful, guys? Was this content that you learned something from?
Just to answer Tom's question, that happens sometimes. It happens to me sometimes that I can't copy something I can click a link, but it won't let me copy something. I don't know what it is. Nobody's been able to explain it. And I'm not the only person. It seems to happen to PC users more than Mac users. But it's a Zoom thing. They've improved it, and now things don't work.
I think it must be related to why I'm not getting the chat, save chat. Something.
It could
some
be, or
setting.
it just doesn't like people on your coast. It's weird, Eagle. We can't figure it out. That sometimes you can copy. Some people in the same chat can copy, and some people can't. Okay, Jeff, thank you very much. This has been fascinating, and I'm so glad that I could find you, I think, in a Florida group. And,
Yes.
Us two relative Northerners from Florida. Again, I put in the chat way up at the top, if you live in Guilford County, the link to put a fraud protection on your deed for your house. If you live in any other county, Google Registrar of Deeds in your county, and there should be free fraud alerts. There's been way too much hacking, way too much, and too much PII, personally identifying information, is out there. So be careful and be safe and enjoy WordPress, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good evening.